Hey guys, it's Jenna Elfman from Fear the Walking Dead. I play Laura. No, I play Naomi. No, I play June. I play June on Fear the Walking Dead. And you're listening to the Fear the Walking Dead talk through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, I'm Lindsley Register, and I play Laura on The Walking Dead. You're listening to The Walking Dead talk through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, this is Ross Marquand, and you're listening to The Walking Dead talk through.
Awesome.
Hey, this is Mick Stahl, and you're listening to Fear the Walking Dead Talk Through.
Cool.
Hey survivors, welcome to episode 101 of Fear the Walking Dead Talk Through. I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
Yay!
Yay, it's us. We're back.
Yep. Alright, so we'll be covering Fear the Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 2, titled Blue Jay. But first, we did get some feedback about our last podcast. Remember what they took from you. And the first comes from Mike from Asheville, and he gives that last episode a 3 out of 10. His awesome sauce was, I guess I like the swamp and the walkers in there, though I had a hard time enjoying it because all I could think of was how many gators and snakes could be in there.
Yes.
Weak sauce, this episode's story or lack thereof.
Indeed.
And feedback, I wasn't expecting much, but they gave us less than that for a season opener. It was boring. We meet older Mo, who can remember stuff from when she was a baby. Yeah, right. Everyone is split up and some are working for Padre. Okay, why? What happened? Is this going to be a season-long mystery? Who is in charge of Padre? Are we going to meet someone we have seen before, or just some random guy we won't care about? Being the final season, they can't waste our time with filler. Every episode has to go somewhere. Feed me. I also can't help but wonder if only half the season will be Padre, and then we'll move on real fast and wrap up Morgan's story. As far as Madison goes, what did they want with her blood? My wife summed all this up with repeatedly saying how confused she was and ended with, "This is going to be a boring season."
Well, we can hope. We can hope they turn it around.
Yeah, I know we've had kind of similar experiences when they start off the new season, and it is kind of like there's just these weird like starts, but then later it does kind of kick into high gear. But I guess we'll see. That's
they ain't got much road to kick on.
Yeah. And and also it's like with the mid-season finale and like when does it come back? How long are we going to have to wait? That's going to be another kind of question of how
it's another question that we have.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for your feedback. And next we have
Aaron from the internet.
Yes. Aaron, I wanted to start off with that I did edit some of this down, and I did post this. She was having a problem posting it onto the blog post, or it was like giving some kind of errors or whatever. So I posted the entirety of what she emailed on the blog post. So some of the stuff that I cut out, like you guys can see her whole, like everything. But I just wanted to keep it for time constraints, just kind of to the basic of the all the sauces.
Okay.
So I will start with her ratings. She gave it a 2 out of 10, and both points are for Madison being awesome with the action bits again and telling Morgan off repeatedly. He's lucky they handicapped her to protect him more. Else so she takes him out like she has everyone who screwed her over. I'll start with awesome sauce, and then you can go with weak. Awesome sauce was Madison Clark. Even though they've had to physically weaken her to keep her on these escort missions, she was still the best part of the episode. Credit to the kid playing Mo, as she did good too overall. But it's always been Madison for me first and foremost with this series.
And then she says, "What sauce?" So many whats on this episode. It was basically a burnt episode as we ended up right back where we were. Instead of staying on Padre and learning about it and seeing Madison tell Mo outside and learn why she wants to kill things, we get a giant circle plot just to bring Morgan because mandated Morgan time. And yeah, what's the point of this episode really? When they already have so few to work with, this was just a giant waste of time, I felt. Again, we wasted how much time on Padre in the last 2 seasons. Instead of building it, after all, we get a circle episode with no progression at all, honestly. Such a waste of time. She goes on to say, how did Madison get out of the basement zone, past any guards up top, and to a boat to escape with Mo without anyone chasing them? If Mo wanted to stay so bad on the island, why didn't she fight off Madison? Sadly, in this state, I think Mo could take her. How did Madison and Morgan make it off the ship in the first place before the time jump? She could barely move anymore. I know Golden Child has plot armor, so you can literally shoot him point blank and leave him for days and he's fine, but how is Madison taking out 12 people with a sledgehammer alone? She's awesome, don't get me wrong, but they also weakened her to prop up others, so it's making her seem unrealistic now. I see sadly Mo has inherited Morgan's inconsistent ideas because what with the back and forth of the scenes, 1 minute she wants to leave and the next minute she wants to go back. She wanted to kill Madison, but then it's all we have to save her. Girl, I'm going to need you to get more of grace in you because you're acting like the wrong parent. Then Padre says kill Madison, but yet they take her back. I know they have to keep Kim around so older fans might watch again, but still, what sense does it make? Are they going to experiment on her? There's not a lot else they can do with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. The whole drawing blood thing makes, no sense right now. All right, well, now onto the weak sauce. She says, Morgan Jones, the world's most inconsistent, idealist golden child. Seriously, it killed the series when they let him lead, when Alicia should have been the focus post-Madison. I've said it before, and I still stand by it. He is the worst thing to happen to this series. His inconsistent mentality this episode was just laughable. I can't even with him. 1 minute he's telling Mo she was better off on Padre, and the next second he condemns Madison for taking others, even though he just said people were safer there. Like, shut up, Morgan. And again, you have him go through all of this to get her off the boat, only to literally minutes later, it seems, call them back to say, come get her. What? I do not understand this guy and why Gimple is so willing to die on this hill when there are so many more interesting options around. Agreed.
Yeah. Then all and sad sauce is getting really serious for a moment. The sad sauce is very trigger warning, so I will put a gap in case people want to skip reading it. I just know my remaining comments are basically Morgan killed the series and is ridiculous, and I wouldn't recommend watching the episode. Trigger warning ahead for the topic of suicide. This is more of a shock sauce, but it really doesn't fit with the others, so I'll just have it for sad. I'm really surprised that they got as graphic as they did with Madison's suicide attempt. Yes, the show is on later, but still before 10 p.m., and just in general, you don't see it going that far with the gun in the mouth and the trigger pulled. Usually a character will just make a threat by placing it to their head, but they went all the way in there. And the fact there was no warning about how the episode contained images of suicide was really surprising. I really don't know how they got that played past the censors. That said, it also fits for sad sauce because you can see the desperation on Madison's face when she makes the move and the sadness when it doesn't work. It was a very emotional moment and one that made me sit up for a bit watching. The added fact of they weren't saving her because they cared, but because they wanted to use her more, so she had to endure. It was honestly a little hard to watch, to say the least. There's an ick factor, too, when you start thinking about this is kind of a mimic of real life, too, with how they're using Madison's return for ratings only because they literally handicapped her, so she can't be her awesome, full-on self, and all we want is old Madison, so her death would being pieced to a lot, yet it's kept from us, the character. That said, I do not think they basically confirmed death is coming from Madison at the end because while I'd love to see her back in more stories and away from the issues of the character still on the show, I can see now her dying to save Mo, and my only hope is when she does, we see Alicia and Nick there to welcome her to the afterlife because they owe her after all of this. It will officially kill Fear in name. They killed the series in Body and Soul season 4B, now for sure, but in name it would die with Madison. Also, as it would resort to just another The Walking Dead franchise, basically given who's heading it, as all the Clarks will be gone. But yeah, I don't see how she goes off into any of the spinoffs. It was all in character, honestly, but again, I'm shocked it got to screen with this version, and I hope the lack of trigger warning didn't upset any viewers with a history of destructive thoughts.
Mm-hmm. That is true. I mean, that was graphic, and it does seem like with this coming episode, they're just trying to pull more shock and like pushing stuff that for ratings.
Could be.
Yep. And then she goes on and with some random comments, and she said, they call this episode, Remember What They Took From You. And all I can think in the wake of all this being the final season is the show. Haha. Again, I will always stand firm on the stance that the addition of change to Morgan Jones killed the series. Regardless of where you stand towards Madison Clark, the fact is they also limited Alicia Clark, who should have been the lead post-Madison. But because Gimple is obsessed with Morgan, Alicia faded more and more into the background, which meant more and more of Fear faded with each season. The best episode of each year post season 3 were often ones focused on Alicia and or Strand because they were the heart of the series left from the start. But yeah, in the face of Morgan, she was the lead. And Alicia been given the screen time she deserved, and Dave Erickson stayed. I do wonder if the series would still be going on, at least have better final seasons than what we got. They're still talking spin-off series, so I can't be the franchise is done, thus cancel them all. So yeah, what they took to me is that the show post season 3 for sure. I will admit that the episode wasn't as trash fire as I thought it would be, but also I won't recommend someone watch it if they missed it. Is Mo going to be the live action Clementine basically now, where people have to escort her to a safer place all season? Is she going to a spinoff later with other kids based off of what dead adults taught her? This feels very Telltale video game inspired for her part, and I can literally or I can always say the video games did it better because the season is already whiffing out of the gate with choices. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thank you, Erin, for your comments. And she emailed with her feedback for this week. So we'll get to those here in a little bit. But that was all that we got for last week's episode. So let's get into this week's episode. Fear the Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 2, titled Blue Jay, written by Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg, again. Directed by Heather Cappielo. Description on YouTube TV was after fleeing Padre, June's safety and solitude is threatened by an unwelcome reunion and a desperate father's search for his missing daughter.
Yes.
All right. Let's go into our ratings. And I'll start with mine. I gave it a 4. Again, what the hell is going on? Out of 10.
Well, I gave it a 4 out of 10, but the more I thought about it, I just couldn't put my finger on it.
That seems to be a common thread.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of fingers this time. And I was thinking about it's too bad. And, it's too bad Brian's not here because he and I could go into our whole diatribe of it seemed that for the entire run of Star Trek Discovery, they had eye trauma as a recurring theme. And this week it's like, well, let's just raise the phalangeal horror up a notch. Because I'm sorry, fingers chopping off is just, it's squicky for me. Okay.
Yeah. Even if it's done really delicately with like
even
a
if it's
scalpel.
done, artfully, gracefully, and surgically, it's fingers, man. It's fingers.
Yeah.
So on to the listener ratings. And we're going to kick those off with Dieta from Detroit, who says 6 out of 10. You lose a finger, and you lose a finger, and you lose a finger, and everybody loses a finger.
Awesome. Yep. Glennis from Toronto gave it a 5 out of 10. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Ivan from Minnesota says 5 out of 10. The plot thickens.
And Mike from Asheville gave it a 7 out of 10. Lots of finger pointing going on.
It's true, especially if you roll the jar the right way. And Aaron from the internet says 7 out of 10. This was miles better than last week, but still had issues, which kept me from rating it potentially higher. And she adds, I felt for the guy and then June some too when she told the dad what was happening to his daughter. She had good intentions, but it went tragically wrong.
Yep. Yeah, I have some questions about that. All right. And then next is...
Yes. I was trying to come up with something creative since the plot waffles was such a divine inspiration. But this week, I'm sorry, our sponsorship is down, even though we have 2 this week. We did get a word from Frodo brand, 9-finger gloves. They're big in Padre, especially if you're, 9. And of course, we have a quick word from Dr. June, surgeon in a bag. For all those delicate surgeries that you might have to do during the zombie apocalypse, Dr. June's surgery in a bag.
Oh, awesome. Nice
because I'm going, hey, she's got and being that you're enjoying your new agrarian lifestyle, even though you have not delved into animal husbandry, I was going, oh, she's got the little rubber bands that you use for tourniquets.
Oh, yeah.
and things. And I'm going, oh, so she can cut off fingers, she can anesthetize people on boats, and do appendix surgery.
Right.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff in that bag.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a little like Doctor Who TARDIS bag.
Yes,
it's just got room for everything.
It's an ER in a simple, easy to zip pouch.
Awesome. All right. Well, then that leads us into our awesome sauce. Awesome sauce. All right. You want to take it ahead?
I shall. Glenn from Toronto's kicks off awesome sauce by saying that heady zombie that looked like a jack-in-the-box biting Finch. It looked like he had an elongated neck with that clamp extending out, looking like an adjustable desk lamp or the robot representing the eye on the Pixar ads. And Glennis, I have a comment about that later. So,
next from Mike from Asheville, he's like, The Train. Halloween Horror Nights could take some inspiration from it. June is out there chewing bubble gum and taking fingers, and she's all out of chewing gum. The emotional intensity of this episode. We felt June's pain, and it was almost like she's back to how she was when we first met her.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I will agree with that. So, next up, Ivan from Minnesota, who says, this episode was actually interesting and pretty decent for once. I liked how June was being forced to try and work on a cure and the radiation aspect. Dwight and Sherry finally made some sense with the sanctuary talk, and Dwight acting was top-notch this episode. And I concur as well, Ivan.
Mm-hmm. I agree, too. There were some little good parts of this episode, and that was definitely one of them. All right. Well, next is Erin from the internet, and she says there was very little Morgan Jones in this episode, and Madison got to continually dupe people because she's awesome like that. So there was that. This episode was good, but nothing exactly jumped out as awesome this week.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was all our listeners' awesome sauce. So let's go into ours. I basically, whenever I saw everybody's comments, that's what I kind of agreed were some of my awesomes. It's like this episode was very emotional with June in her predicament, and also the horror of watching Dwight and Sherry's son, who they have been trying to protect, like gets bit. That was very emotional, and it was almost like I was just like, oh, like girl. Do you know who this is? Dwight can go back to his more brutal ways if being pushed to it like that. So yeah, it's like it was kind of also shocking with basically biting what's his face or the son
Finch.
Finch, because even Dwight said that Padre hasn't lost any children, and here they basically killed one of the kids on purpose, because it's not like the Hannah situation where she seems, from at least what we're being told, that she got bit out in the field, basically doing a mission.
Right.
And here it is that like they choose to basically kill this kid. And that was very like, whoa, that just adds a little more like, okay, this is truly, Padre is brutal. And
well, and it's like what Dwight and Sherry were talking about. This is like Sanctuary Plus.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I mean, Negan did some pretty shady stuff, but I don't see him doing something like that.
Yeah, and that's
to a kid especially, because we know how he was about kids.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, that was all my awesomes. LT.
All right. Well, for me, I was very happy to see June doing her thing. June being all Swamp Rambo there. Definitely, as somebody said earlier, this is like very old school June. Very, pre-civilized, pre-John Dory June. And it was good to see, Jenna Elfman stretching her chops a little bit, because she got to be, she had her moment in the sun of not just being the medic. She was the action hero. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed seeing that. And then of course it had to be Dwight and Sherry. Yeah. It had to be Dwight and Sherry, because of course, our favorite couple can't not end up being in some sort of dilemma. Mm-hmm. But I was definitely glad to see them. I was glad to see them well, and I was glad to see them doing what they do. Maybe not doing it for Padre, but we know that the two of them have the action hero DNA to do exciting things, even though they end up making some crap decisions along the way. Like I said, they are some of my favorite characters, and I was very glad to see them doing their thing. I was glad to see them getting FaceTime in this episode, and I'll complain about the other stuff in a little bit. I thought it was pretty cool that they foreshadowed the whole train thing with that billboard.
Yeah, agree.
So that was kind of a cool little, hint as to what was going to happen. Overall, I mean, there's a lot that I liked about this episode. I mean, I liked that they're getting back to some action, that at least the action can help me overlook some of the things that I'm going to be weaking and whatting about. So yeah, I mean, I think that this was also utilizing the new locale quite well. Mm-hmm. And yes, sir, I do agree that this was probably the most gatorless, snakeless, bugless swamp that I've seen lately, but it still added to the vibe.
Yep. Nope. Agreed. At least, that's they're at least using that. Like, that's the thing. It does. It's like it visually, and the camera work, basically, it's like that stuff is enjoyable and looks great, so it's like, just, I wish there was, the stories and better plots, or, all that stuff, which I'm going to talk about later too.
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, then let's get into our weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
All right. I'll just go ahead and start. First comes Dieta from Detroit, and she says, Padre found them so fast, they must have superpowers. June was MIA for so long, then poof, we found you?
Yes. Ivan from Minnesota says, Padre for sending people to the same location over and over to have their fingers taken. Dwight's kid for being on the verge of death, but being able to go help kill walkers. He killed one walker. Good job, kid. You should have died. Well, the lady for cutting off June's pointer. She might need that to work on patients effectively. Congrats on hindering your doctor. Oh, and Fear. Can you stop giving us new characters just to kill them in the same episode? I'd actually like to get to know some people. Well,
yeah.
You know, Ivan, that's their thing. If you have somebody you've never seen before and they suddenly get some plot development and exposition, they're going to die. They're going to get the T-Dog treatment.
Yeah, for sure. They love just snatching that away from us. All right. Well, thank you, Ivan. Next is Glennis from Toronto, and she says, that kid. And she says, Finch's that a good bird name for a male? The son of Dwight's Red Kite and Sherry was fast asleep one moment. He's like, I'm feeling sleepy. Then bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in another moment and up about killing zombies.
Yeah, it's a good question. Mike from Asheville says, Padre not finding her sooner. All they had to do was send 2 boats at a time.
Yes. Oh, and then Erin from the internet, she said, June not killing the collectors. That's what was the point if she's trying to depower them? Like, I get the symbolizing with the fingers and the message thrustly she was going for, but why not just kill them, as that hurts Padre too? Was it to give them another chance? Seems like it didn't work, given how many are still there collecting. I feel her signs did more than the finger cut. Yeah.
Well, maybe. We don't know.
No, we don't. But I don't know. I'll get into it when I go into my Watts, because it just kind of.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was all of our listeners' week sauces. So let's get into ours. And basically, again, everybody kind of hit some of the same points. It's like, I completely agree with Erin. Like, I did not see why she was not killing them to stop them. And also with the fact that Shrike even said that June has been doing this for years, but they kept sending out their people like on boats in the same location, and June just kept doing it, and they somehow couldn't figure out how to catch or stop her.
Yeah.
I mean, we could surmise that, like, there's obviously they're taking this waterway, maybe there's multiple, but yeah, it just seemed like it was just kind of she just waits for them to come by and they keep getting taken out easily. Goodness. Anyways, that's all I had.
Well, and the argument I would make is she didn't kill them because she didn't want to kill them. She just wanted to, maim them so that they would know,
Yeah.
And of course, it's fingers still. I mean, you could have done ears, I guess, or noses.
Yeah, that's true.
But about that. So she's been doing it for years and getting away with it, but yet Polaroid Dad shows up in 5 minutes and is on her doorstep. And I'm going, what kind of ninja super tracker is he? This and of course, then what kind of dumbasses are Padre that they didn't find her? I mean, if Polaroid Dad found her so fast, then what does that say about Team Padre's tracking skills?
Right.
Did they just not want to get off the boat? I don't know. So I have to take a moment of weak sauce for when June was on the train car and she's suddenly confronted by the newly released zombies. I think that when she got knocked down and of course then ended up being pinned to the floor by a zombie, That was a tactical misstep on her part. And I will elucidate thusly. So when she was at the door, she had the little funnel in between the two cabinets. So the zombies couldn't rush her two at a time. They had to kind of do one at a time. And so if you have distance, that gives you more of a chance to react. So what did she do? She closed on them. So when you close, you lose that reactionary gap. That if she had just stayed at the door and kept doing what she was doing, she probably could have shot all of them before they got to her.
Yeah, agree.
But of course, we had to increase the drama, give Polaroid Dad something to do so that he could save the day. And I guess the secondary caveat to that is that's why you have the utility. I've talked about lanyards for your flashlights. Well, this is why you have a lanyard for your pistol, so that if you drop it, it's still attached to you. I thought it was incredibly weak sauce on their part, and I'll complain about this because why do they have to have Dwight and Sherry's son get bit? Of all the things, it had to be Dwight and Sherry's kid. I understand it's part of the plot and you got to add some dramatic tension and this is a hook for June, but it's like, come on, guys, really? You're going to mess with them again? So it just had to be Dwight and Sherry's kid. I mean, it's one of those things. It just was staggeringly predictable, I guess.
Yeah.
And then finally, I'm going to leave it with, of course, Polaroid Dad in his moment of despair had to throw himself in a pod of live zombies to die in a munchie fest. I'm sorry. I just, if I was going to be in a moment of despair, I'd just do myself some other way. I don't like the idea of throwing myself in a pile of things to be eaten.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry. My angst don't work that way.
All right. Well, that takes us into our what sauce.
What?
All right. Well, let's kick off our what sauce with Ivan from Minnesota, who says, June having an unlimited supply of tranquilizers and cutting off people's fingers and keeping them in a jar. Sounds even more ridiculous out loud. I get why, but it's still just kind of silly. Also, June for walking past chain walkers and not killing them right away so they can later break free and almost kill her. It's like you haven't been an apocalypse survivor for over 7 years. Rick or Michonne would have wrecked those walkers at first glance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Good point. Next is Erin from the internet, and she says, so how exactly was June getting away with this for years? Why did Padre not hunt that area for who was doing it the third time it happened? Why did collectors keep taking that route if it kept getting ambushed? Maybe they only have so many waterway options, but still, if you can go another way, do it at that point. Yep. What good does it do to cut off June's finger when she needs that to hold a scalpel? I get the revenge, but that's a dumb move on the medical practice front. And what's with the bird codename obsession? I feel like we should be on the lookout for any character who loves birds to be actual Padre. Huh.
Oh,
yeah. I guess that's just their thing. You know, they were like, hey, we're going to be this super secretive group. And
Kyle, and I realize you may be a little too young. Did you ever see one of my favorite movies, and ironically bird related? Do you ever see Hudson Hawk with Bruce Willis?
I know of it. I'm not.
Okay, put it on your list because there's a point where he's dealing with the secret agents, and the secret agents all have like matching code names. It's like at one point they were all candy bars. So it's like Almond Joy and Butterfinger and Snickers, and I'm like, oh. So it's just reminded me of that. It's just all like the bird thing. It's just their theme.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to check that out. But I mean, that's a thing. You're making that reference, but I would not believe that that's coming from the showrunners of why they're doing it.
You never know with these guys.
True. I guess that's true. Oh, goodness. They think they're so clever. All right. Well, that was all of our watch lists from our listeners. And so that will get into mine, which basically this whole episode was a big what for me. All right. Well, so I have so many watch. It's like I didn't know where to start. Like Aaron had one of them about June, getting away from this whole finger things for so long. So I'm going to go kind of in order of how I put them in my show notes when I was watching. And again, how did June get away with this for so long? If it's happening for years, it's like Padre could have sent out teams, one to let June shoot them, and they sit back and see her basically come up to grab the boat, cut off their fingers, etc. It's like, come on, like,
yeah,
a very, yeah, like, anyways, Adrian, first, like when he found June's hideout, again, I was just like, why didn't June just kill him? And I guess I'm getting where, yeah, she's, that's kind of, maybe she's like not at that, like not doing that, she doesn't want to kill. Maybe she's just tired of it or whatever. But I still, it's like, I feel like you're in the ZA, like, and you're like, this dude just found you easily, it seemed, and comes and basically like discovers your hideout, who is not, when you not think is a threat, and just have to dispatch him. But I mean, I guess, in her emotional state or what's going on with her, that's just not what she wants to do. Since she's
right. And he kind of does the cable guy thing, and I'll come back every day.
Yeah. And then also Adrian said he was like with like-minded people trying to find Padre and their kids, that they were like building this army against Padre, but yet they have not been able to find this island this whole time. Like, again, it was like this area that they are in cannot be a massive area. And then over 7 years, this group would have been able to find their location. I mean, you would think.
Maybe the same directional instability that allowed June to get away with shooting the people in the same spot for 7 years also is preventing the like-minded people from finding Padre.
Yeah, or they're just not really trying hard enough.
It's well, we'll try tomorrow.
Yeah, there's just so much going on. I'm so busy.
Yeah, we'll go out over there tomorrow, but no, let's go back over here. The roads are good over here.
Yeah, well, maybe they don't have any pens or paper to like write this stuff down, so they just keep repeing the same location.
Or obviously all the clever people were already eaten in the zombie apocalypse.
Oh goodness. Then also, why was Adrian, he was always alone, so that's also made me question, like, did this group even exist? And like, why didn't he have a backup buddy? Because like after finding Hannah, he decided to let her and the other walkers chomp him. Like, what about this army that he's, talking about? Like, does he not want to fight and stop Padre and save the other children? So it was, again, does this group even exist? Why was he alone? Like, I was like, seriously, I didn't understand that at all. And then, yeah, Padre seems to be invisible, so no one can find them. But how far are they going to snatch kids? And you would think that after 7+ years of kitty snatching, that the area that they are in would be pretty much picked clean of children. Like,
and one would think they've been killing zombies for how many years, and there's still an infinite supply of zombies.
Yeah, but that's like,
so
it just seems that there's a very lower number of alive humanity.
Obviously,
left.
there's a lot of people moving into the neighborhood who are having kids.
They heard. I guess Padre was doing that, some kind of radio broadcast.
It's location.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's a nice island, good weather, maybe swamp. So Padre has a clinic, and this is from what Dwight says is like 20 miles away. So why isn't this clinic on the island? Because like, why is this a place that people have to drive boats to and make a huge use of resources and travel long distances for people to go to? Like,
it's a secret base. It's the secret base from the secret base. Why does the Air Force hide all of their developmental fighters out in the middle of the desert in Arizona? Because it's out in the middle of nowhere. So if you don't want people to discover your secret program, you put it somewhere else.
Well, but that's the question. So is the clinic that they're taking...
it's secret.
Okay. It seems...
secret.
Silly because, again, yeah. I'll get onto that other part that we can go on there. But, okay. Yeah. So next was June said she wanted to leave and that it was like not safe for her anymore. So why is she still hanging around cutting people's fingers off? Like, just pick a horizon and start walking. And then on the other part, she made this agreement with Dwight and Sherry that, like, in helping their son, that they would get her a boat so that she could leave. But didn't she have access to boats from all these people she was cutting the fingers off? I mean, she had like mini boats, like many times. And like, I just was like, wait a minute. You're now wanting to leave and they're going to give you transportation that you've basically been taking away. Like, she didn't have to let those people, the finger cutters, like have their boat again. She could have like let them just wake up with no boat and then she could have been gone and they still would have been able to make it back to Padre. So I don't know. I thought it was just completely silly. But then again, so Dwight and Sherry later come to the decision to leave with their son and get away from Padre. But we're like, where do we go? And my first thought was like, Alexandria. Like, people are most likely there, even if it's been this long since you've talked to anybody. But like, wouldn't you logically think to be like, oh yeah, I remember, Alexandria, like if you're going to go somewhere, you might like go back to the place that you might know that's, still has people. Yeah. Okay. So now coming up where you're saying the super secret, like clinic, a super secret base. Like, so how long has Padre abandoned this train car that had all this power and medical equipment? That kind of maybe like that goes into the foreshadowing with seeing that big sign talking about the historic train, whatever. Yeah. So like June obviously knew because she used to work there, but then it kind of made me think, I was like, well, it seemed like it was pretty abandoned until, it needed not to be. So I don't know. It's like if they have the super secret clinic, they paused all the I guess experiments because June left. It kind of, I don't know. I just was like, what?
Yeah.
And then another observation. So June sterilizes the tray table that she was going to use to do the surgery on the kid, but then she put her unsterilized bag on top of it. I just was like, we never saw a shot of her sterilizing the actual scalpel or anything like that, but I just thought it was funny that was.
We did when she cut off the first finger at the beginning of the episode. Okay,
but still, it made me like, wait a minute, like I have to deal with a lot of health stuff with
it's an assumed presumption.
Okay, but still, you don't put a dirty bag on top of something you just sterilized. Like you could have taken your stuff out. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a gaffe. So Hannah, that June knew was dead, got bit from an off-island mission for Padre, and that they know cutting off limbs from bites is a thing that can save you from being infected, as we know. And they said that she was bit on her back, so they couldn't amputate. So it kind of maybe was like, well, okay, so I guess it's common knowledge now in the ZA that everybody just knows that you get bit, you cut off the limb, and that's most likely going to save people. It always strikes me where it's just like, okay, wait a minute. How, like, to me, it just comes across being where I start feeling like, okay, well, they obviously are being lazy and just saying, oh, okay, cool. We have this from the main show. Like, we'll just put it into here. Like they couldn't have come up with some other, explanation, or maybe there's some other way, that's like, I don't know. It just seemed very that somebody wrote a book about it and they just happened to come across it and everybody knows.
Yep.
And then also, if you're going to use a walker head to bite someone, like, why put it on this crazy mechanical arm thing and then slowly let it move to the person they want to get bit? It's like, couldn't you just hold the head up to the person that you want bit and just let it do its thing?
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay. I mean, I was like, I guess it's for the dramatics, but yeah, I was kind of like, wait, huh? I think it'd be more shocking if you just did it yourself. And yeah, then basically I'm sure I missed some other things, but that was when I was watching, or actually like doing my rewatch, like when I was writing my notes, like all this stuff kept coming up and I just kept thinking, I'm like, okay, like again, fear has put me in that position where I just like, okay, I just have to just go with it all, all the walkie-talkies work, everybody has resources, and then people are making these decisions that just doesn't seem like it actually fits. So it was big whop for me.
Yeah. I'll go with that. The thing you're talking about with the boats, I agree with you to a point, but we don't know, we saw that little stretch of river where she was ambushing everybody. Mm-hmm. And the assumption that I got is that there are more Padre people on one end and there's the pickup boat on the other end. So if this is like a river, yes, she has a boat, but she can't really just jump in that boat and take off because somebody's going to see her.
Yeah.
And we don't know how much gas this particular boat has. So maybe she has a rough idea of where she needs to go, and she's not wanting to do it when everybody is there to see her go.
Yeah, it's still a stretch though. That when
I understand.
Cherry, that's
I'm
what
not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not a stretch. This is like very super stretchy.
Yeah. Yes.
About your head, I kind of think that this is like the super sanitary Dr. Evil slow motion evil doom lowering device. Because every bad guy in every movie always has the super slow moving device of doom. If you remember, what I sort of set the genre is, so Goldfinger had James Bond strapped to the table and the laser was slowly cutting up the table. And he's going, "So, Goldfinger, do you expect me to talk?" "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." But it's like the laser's going cut, 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 cut very slowly. Just like the, engage the slow lowering into the shark tank lowering device. To me, I was going, okay, so they don't want to have their hands on the zombie head. So they have this mechanical boom mic thing to go and slowly push the head over there, because that way you can have all these screaming, "No, Shrike, no, don't do that, no, no." Because I agree with you. If you're going to do it, you go, "Oh yeah, just put it on them."
Yeah, yeah. It would have worked either way, but
but that's the first thing I thought of was, once again, Austin Powers, the super slow, death machine. And so the final thing that I have to say about your boat situation is twofold. One is, like we've already said, if you keep getting ambushed going the same way, don't go the same way. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, exactly like you've been doing it and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
I'm just going, okay, go a different way. Go around the island instead of straight through the island. If you know after the second or third time that this is where you're going to get shot. And the other point would be, we know they have a boat with a cabin.
Right. Yep.
If you had a boat with a cabin and you're not just on your Zodiac, zipping along on your uncabined, unarmored rubber boat, then maybe, just maybe, you're not going to get shot because there's a wall. That was the thing that I kept thinking, going, well, use a different boat.
Right. Yep.
Even, and the thing would be, even if you just take some PVC pipe and some camo net and put something up on the side so they can't see exactly where you're at, then they can't shoot you in the neck with a hypodermic dart like a rhinoceros on Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And I realize I've just severely dated myself. And for those of you who are too young to remember Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, it was a show that they used to show on Sunday night where Marlon Perkins and his assistant Jim would go on safaris to all kinds of distant and exotic places and see all kinds of wild and exotic animals. And I feel about 100 now, so thanks, Kyle.
I didn't do that.
But anyway, so yeah, that's about all the what I got in me. So,
all right. Well, then that takes us into our sad and aw sauce. Aww. All right. I'll start off with Dieta from Detroit, and she said, after finding out Sherry and Daryl, I guess she's Dwight. Sherry and Dwight had their baby only to lose him to the hands of that crazy lady, like cussing face emoji. I don't like her. Yeah.
Yes, I think if Sherry and Daryl had a kid, that would be something else. So Ivan from Minnesota says, Dwight's kid for finding out about his parents and then getting bit. I felt really bad for Dwight in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you're my mom and dad. Again.
Showrunners like to introduce us to someone and take them right away.
Yes, they do.
All right. Aaron from the internet says, more shock sauce than sad awe. They really are going for the darkest timeline this season with all the suicide attempts and letting the kid be bit. This is some season 3 level violence and probably what they wanted with Virginia originally, but for some reason didn't do it then. A very depressing season so far for sure.
Indeed.
That's kind of an interesting point. Yeah, because I mean,
the
Virginia arc, there was some somewhat pushy, darker things, but yeah, they didn't really go too overboard.
But it was never super dark.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was all our listeners sad and sauce. I didn't really have any. LT, what did you have?
Well, I have two. Definitely sad for me was Dwight Jr. getting the munchie munch. I don't know what's going to happen, but again, Dwight and Sherry, she survived all the radiation in Texas. They have a kid. The kid's grown up. The kid looks good, and then gets bit by a zombie. I'm like, come on, guys. Because what did I say before? It had to be Dwight and Sherry.
Yep.
And then my other sad sauce was after all the adventures of Polaroid Dad, I just thought it was, the 1 minute that they gave us seeing the actor's face after he found out his daughter was dead. That my point of nuance on that, for yes, I understand he's a part of a bigger group, but he was so driven and invested to find her that I think that the problem was at that moment, that was all he had been living for. All he had been doing every day, every minute was trying to find his daughter. And he never sat and did that mental calculus to say, well, what if she's dead?
Right.
And just that moment, and you could kind of see it on the actor's face before they did the pullback, that I think he carried that moment before they panned out and faded to black for the scream. But, you think about it, that I was not so much bothered by the suicidal part of things in the last couple episodes, but the fact of this is somebody who they stripped away the last bit of his hope. The one thing that was keeping him going, he lost. And that's why I think he did what he did, because he gave up.
Yeah.
And that's why, when you get so obsessive over something, that it was just sad that in that moment, he quit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, of all things to do, if you're going to do that, is, again, throw yourself into a pile of zombies. And again, for editorial content, I don't like being on fire. I don't like falling. And I'm not really cool with the idea of being eaten alive. So, of all the possible options, I would pick something else.
Yes, I would agree with you on that.
Even if you're in a moment of dark despair and angst,
it's like I want something that's quick and it's gonna take a while.
They've done this. This is another trope of the show that the person has their moment of existential quandary, and they do it by throwing themselves into a pile of walkers. I just no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I there was that one part where he does see his daughter behind the door. It definitely was Sophia reminisce, similarities and stuff like that, which was kind of that's the thing. It was there was that moment, and you could see her just kind of lightly hitting against the door and just staring. It was kind of there was a little. You could say it from his eyes, there's my daughter who's sick or something, still alive or whatever, but really coming to terms oh no, here we're seeing it.
So it's still alive.
Well, I'm not still alive, but having that connection, he hasn't seen her, to being oh, she's right there, and just having that moment. It just is unfortunate that it was in such a there wasn't it was so quick, and we didn't have really any time to have a good relationship or something with this character to have that more emotional tie to him. To me, it was just oh, okay, it just all happened so fast to me, and I just felt like it was a missed opportunity.
Right. And I'll go back to my original thesis that yes, it was another case of them doing the T-dog drill. Mm-hmm. Give us somebody, make them interesting just enough to kill them.
Yeah.
And it's something they do a lot, and it's not necessarily the best thing plot wise. Give me 2 episodes of that before you kill them. But as I've said many a time, beware the newcomer plot exposition.
Oh, goodness.
For they are not long for the show.
Oh, all right. Well, if that was all of our sad and awe sauces, that leads us into our feedback.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
All right. You want to take it away?
I shall. Item from Minnesota says, one of the better episodes of Fear in recent memory, but it still had lots of dumb stuff, as is usual for Fear. I think this radiation cure test is actually somewhat interesting, and I want to see Metal Finger Lady die. So now at least it's somewhat compelling. Keep up the great work, guys. And I hope you're talking about us and not them, but we'll take what we can get, Ivan.
Yep. I will take it. He's talking about us.
And the other thing about Shrike, I figured out where I saw her. She was in season 1 of Picard.
Oh, really?
I think she was one of the Soong androids.
And actually, it's been a while since I saw it,
but I could see that. And
I could totally see that.
I still agree with my original Tank Girl thesis, but
yeah, I like that. All right. Well, next is Deanna from Detroit, and she said this episode had more meat in it than the first episode definitely liked it way better. June was helping Padre conduct experiments with radiation, but she is only a nurse. Wouldn't this role be better with Grace, since she has more experience with radiation? Ooh, that's
Grace has more experience with radiation, but June has more medical knowledge.
Yes, true. Yeah.
Anyway.
Grace is more scientist than doctor. So Padre thinks radiation can be a cure for the virus, and are they experimenting on kids? Why didn't June leave after that guy showed up talking about his daughter? Question mark. I thought the same. The season needs to hurry up and get to the point. I agree with Mike. How and why did our people fall for the Okie Dokie group joining after all the groups they have encountered? They should have been able to spot bullshit from a mile away. And why did the group decide to join? I got questions and I need this season to answer. Yes.
Indeed. And so Mike from Asheville says, overall a better episode than the premiere. Still some annoying tidbits happen, but I'm just expecting that this whole season. So they all joined Padre thinking it was safe. Now that they are finding out they were wrong, but it's taken 10 years. Dwight and Sherry should have gotten Sanctuary vibes pretty quickly. With only 12 episodes, I need info sooner rather than later. I was hoping the next episode was going to flash back and fill us in, but it doesn't seem that way. And he ends it by saying, I have a feeling I'll be very impatient this season. So say we all, Mike. So say we all.
Yep. I have a feeling that after the mid-season finale, there's going to be a pretty long break before we get any more answers.
Yep.
All right. Next, but not least, is Glennis from Toronto. And she says, so was June/Blue Jay referencing Alicia with being cured by radiation? That was my thought. So, so June/Blue Ray is looking a little like the governor with heads in a jar and finger snacks and a kid zombie like the governor's daughter.
Blue Jay, Kyle.
Oh, did I say? I thought that's what I said. Anyways.
Yes, because we're going to name our team after, yes. So Betamax and VHS are going to go with CD.
Oh, did I say Blu-ray? Well, hey, I can come up with my own secret group names. All right. Next, she goes on. She says, I think we need the Bald Eagle to make an appearance and whip the show into a good finale series. And if you're wondering, of course, the Bald Eagle is Rick Grimes. That's got me wondering of bird names for the rest of the Walking Dead cast. Oh, goodness. The fixation with snipers with this Walking Dead universe. So now June Blue Jay is a crack shot. But why not kill the Padre team, as they would ensure they absolutely do not collect another kid and enrich it from its family? I just miss John Dory all the more. Things don't go well for doctors and snipers in the Walking Dead universe.
Indeed.
And yeah, I like just having John gone. Definitely we all talked about that. It was just, that's before he was such a great character.
Yes, he was.
Grew on us. That was like really had some very good, deep, like emotional connections that we all got invested in. And it's just like, like he's not here. And then last but not least, she says, so really still wanting for the season 8 to get wings and fledge. After The Last of Us, the series has lost its luster and falls a bit flat. But I suppose if you could be watched in one sitting or two, then it would flow or fly better. That's a good question. Actually, I think we didn't include it, but it is on the blog post if any of you want to hear Erin's like all full of all her comments. But she did bring something up about like, if watching this, like wondering if more people would just waiting for this all to be done and then just stream it from start to finish and just get through it. And we've talked about it, I guess, in the past too, that, like just with streaming and how ratings and all this other stuff, that it's like, I do that myself, where it's like I don't want to be paying for another like streaming service, so I wait till it's all over. And like The Last of Us, you know, I didn't want to pay for HBO Max, but then when Succession started and I wanted to get that, I was like, oh cool, then I can also see Last of Us, and we binged through it, and you know, we're going through Succession, and as soon as that's over, it's like cut it off until the next thing.
I haven't jumped on the bandwagon because I already have enough streaming services, and I don't, you know, if I started watching The Last of Us, then that would be another streaming service that would mushroom into my thing.
Yeah, it's a juggle, because like I still have Paramount Plus because I was watching Picard, but now we're binging through all the RuPaul Drag Race shows, so it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to give it up yet because that's the only place I can watch it. And I'm like, after that goes, you know, then I'll cut that off until the next Star Trek. But I'm sure then, you know, Strange New Worlds will start by that point.
Well, and see, I've kept Paramount Plus, and since I already had Amazon Prime, I've got Prime.
Right. Yeah.
The only thing that I'm thinking about doing is I got a deal for Disney Plus, but if Disney Plus is going to get shut down and they're going to merge it with Hulu, I've already got Hulu.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the other way around though, but
I don't know how it's going to work out.
Yeah,
how the juggling is going to, because they keep saying that Paramount Plus is going to merge with Showtime streaming
or Discovery. I think the Discovery.
No, it's Showtime. Showtime. Discovery is ABC. I think.
Yeah, I thought somebody was merging, or maybe that's Hulu. Anyways, that's the thing. There's just so much going on. But yeah, you're right. It's like if you don't watch it,
well, it's because the environment can't handle this many streaming services.
Yeah, you just have to pick and choose and make sure you remember to cancel when you're not needing it. Yeah, I've been paying for Paramount Plus from the start, so it's like it is kind of like, well, I'm a Trekkie and I support if that's going to help create more. So it is. And kind of one of those bills.
You know, I've gotten to watch Hawaii Five-0 and CSI and all the shows that I watch. So
yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you, Glennis, as always. Great feedback. And that was the end of our listeners' feedback. Did you have anything else to add that pops in your mind?
I did not, sir.
Alrighty. All right. Like I said, we've said before, I'm skipping ratings until the mid-season, and then we'll kind of go over basically the whole run to just see how it works. Yep. There is the only news that I had, and this was actually, I've already kind of talked about it, but I was reading online because I was wondering of if we were going to get the mid-season finale, and then we know that Dead Island is starting. Yep. I think it's actually that same night as the mid-season finale, and then would Fear start up after that? But it seems like everything I keep coming online, they're saying this fall.
Yep.
So, like, we're gonna have another break, which is kind of like, well, you know, I kind of want to just get this all over, but then But it also made me think about, like, okay, so Dead Island's only 6 episodes long. Then is there nothing else has been announced. So it's like, are we just going to have a break, or are we going to get some surprise announcement of like a new Tales or who knows?
Something? We don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, because it can't be the Daryl spinoff because they would have announced that for sure.
They're still filming.
Yeah, right. And so anyways, that's all I really had news-wise, was just like, we're going to have to wait. So hopefully they give us some excitement. All right. All right. Well, I guess, LT, you want to tell people how to interact with us?
I do. We want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That's @WalkingDeadTTM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in our designated episode thread of our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadTTM. You can send us some email at walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. You can use the feedback forum at the webpage, which is talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. If you'd like to leave us some voicemail, you can call area code 216-232-6146. Remember that all of our new episodes come out on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media and remember to subscribe and click that bell to get notified when we have new videos. We want you to like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. Of course, the best way that you can support us is through our Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/WalkingDeadTalkThrough. We want to thank our Patreon supporters, Renee Murray, Deanna Patterson, me, and Kyle McAdams. And remember that one of the perks of Patreon is that you will get an early version of this episode. Remember to subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. While you're there, if you can, give us a rating or review. You can also leave us a review at podchaser.com. You can rate individual episodes or the whole podcast. Remember to share our posts on Facebook and Twitter when we post them, or tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to get us new listeners. And on that regard, what else is going on Talk Through Media? Well, it's been a rough winter, kids. However, we are intending to come back swinging, so watch this space for more podcasting. And of course, you can pick up on Rebinge Deep Space Nine with James and Kim. They are still going strong. I think they're soon to be finished with Deep Space Nine, and the rumor is they may be starting on another series before too much longer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hopefully, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we'll be back for Strange New Worlds and back for Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yep.
When you can hear Kyle and I with some Brian talking about our favorite animated Star Trek episodes.
Yep. And that will be a good time for all.
Yes, it will. And so, next week, we'll be back for Fear the Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 3, which is entitled Odessa. Written by Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg. Directed by Ron Underwood. And the description from YouTube TV says, Moe's hunt to prove Padre's true intentions has her in over her head as she's drawn into the larger web of secrets. So I guess we'll see if they've got another secret base somewhere else.
Yeah. All right. Well, so until next time, I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
And this is Fear the Walking Dead Talk Through. Good night, everyone.
Good night.